We live in this paradox, don't we? Like we're more digitally linked up than ever before, but that genuine feeling, of being truly connected with another person, sometimes it feels kind of distant.
It really does.
All those notifications, the constant pings,
Yeah.
do they actually fill that basic human need for real contact? It feels a bit like we're facing this quiet crisis of contact.
It's interesting, isn't it? So many people seem to feel that way. We've got all these amazing ways to communicate instantly across the globe. Yeah.
Yet something's missing.
Yeah, that deep sense of just being with someone. What is it about our digital world that sometimes leaves us feeling, well, a little empty?
Exactly. So for this deep dive, we're going to explore something maybe a bit unexpected as an answer, or at least a path towards an answer. Argentine Tango. Now, hold on. Before you start picturing, like, the dramatic stage shows, think about tango more as a potential way back, a route to more authentic person-to-person connection in this digital age we're all navigating.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And the research we've looked at, it really digs into the essence of tango. Its history, its core components. And it puts forward this really fascinating idea
Which is?
that actually doing tango, engaging with it, can actively counteract that sense of isolation that, let's face it, many of us feel today.
Okay. So our mission here is to try and understand how and why this dance, the whole culture really, could offer a way back to more meaningful human connection. We're hoping to find some, surprising insights into how tango taps into a really fundamental human need.
Yeah, it's important to stress this feeling of disconnection. It's not just like a vague feeling.
Right.
Our sources really point out how digital tech, even while it connects us globally, can sort of accidentally lead to this emotional, even sensory detachment.
Yeah, think about texting or even video calls sometimes. You lose so much, don't you? The tone of voice nuances, the tiny facial expressions, the way someone holds themselves. One source really highlighted how vital those nonverbal cues are for, understanding each other, for empathy. And without them, misunderstandings can just creep right in.
Yeah.
It's like trying to read a book with half the pages missing.
And then there's the sheer volume, the constant stream from our phones, from social media.
Yeah.
Some of the materials suggest these devices become these persistent distractions. They fragment our attention, make it harder to be truly present with the people who are actually right there.
We end up spreading ourselves so thin, a little bit here, a little bit there online.
And maybe less for the real face-to-face stuff.
It's like you're always half present, right? Scrolling through a feed while trying to talk to someone. And one source brought up this really interesting phrase, the technicization of relational experience.
Okay.
Talking about how AI and chatbots are now offering these surrogates of relations. They can mimic interaction, answer questions.
But it raises that big question about depth, doesn't it? The
Yeah.
genuine give and take.
Yep.
These technologies might be useful tools, sure, but they lack that vulnerability, the unpredictability, the real messiness of human bonds.
And it seems like deep down we know this. Several sources suggest there's this growing hunger for authentic experiences, almost like a backlash against all the polished, perfect lives we see online.
We're craving something unfiltered, maybe, something real.
Because constantly comparing your own, everyday reality to someone else's carefully curated highlight reel, well, it can really mess with your head, makes you feel inadequate, gives you a warped sense of things.
Absolutely. It sets up unrealistic expectations.
Okay, so that's the backdrop, this digital distance, this craving for authenticity. And into this picture steps Argentine Tango. And when you start looking into it, it quickly becomes clear it's way more than just steps. It's like a whole language based on connection. Maybe we should start at the beginning. Its history, where it came from.
Yeah, good idea. Tango didn't just appear out of nowhere. It emerged late 19th century in the outskirts, the peripheries of Buenos Aires and Montevideo. And the sources paint this picture of it being this incredible fusion. You had European immigrants bringing their music and dances, mixing with local traditions, Afro-Creole rhythms. It all sort of swirled together.
So a real melting pot from the start.
Absolutely. And the early form, the Milonga, had this really vibrant, driving rhythm. It was music born from people coming together, sharing experiences, moving together.
And then it went on this amazing journey, right? From these sort of working class areas.
Exactly. It traveled from the edges of the cities into the posher salons of Buenos Aires, and then, get this, it crossed the Atlantic to Paris, early 20th century.
Wow, Paris.
Yeah, it caused a massive sensation there. Imagine that this dance from the streets of South America taking Parisian high society by storm.
That's incredible. Did that change it?
Well, that international exposure definitely added some layers, maybe a bit more elegance, some sophistication. And when it eventually came back to Argentina, it had this newfound prestige. It really cemented its place as a symbol of national identity.
Right.
It was like the local kid made good on the world stage.
And it wasn't always smooth sailing after that, was it? There were times it was suppressed, I think.
Oh, absolutely. It faced censorship, difficult periods.
Yeah.
But then I had these incredible revivals. Think of musicians like Astor Piazzolla, who completely revolutionized the music.
Right.
And then a really big moment came in 2009.
The UNESCO recognition.
Exactly. Intangible cultural heritage. And that wasn't just about the dance steps or the music. It recognized the whole ecosystem.
Ecosystem.
Yeah, the music, the poetry, often in this local slang called lunfardo, and crucially, this underlying philosophy of life centered on human connection. It saw tango as this living, breathing way people relate to each other.
Okay, so it has this incredible history, this cultural weight. But let's get to the core of it.
Right.
What is it about the dance itself that builds this connection we're talking about? Maybe start with the embrace, el abrazo.
Yes, the embrace. It's absolutely fundamental. The sources are really clear on this. It's so much more than just physical contact.
It's the main communication channel.
Totally. It's the heart of the emotional connection. One source described it beautifully as a language made of silences, rhythms, and presence. That shared physical space, that's where the dialogue really happens.
And it's not like a vice grip, right? It's more dynamic.
Oh, absolutely. It's a consensual space. One source mentioned that traditionally, the woman often sort of chooses the type of embrace at the start, and it can shift and change throughout the dance, responding to the music, to each other.
And the roles within that embrace. Traditionally, the man leads.
Traditionally, yes. The man often takes a role of providing a sense of security, guiding the woman safely through the dance floor. This can really build trust, allowing both partners to relax and just be in the dance, in the connection.
So it becomes this mutual thing, giving and receiving.
Exactly. As one source put it, a giving and receiving not so frequent today.
Right.
You're sharing movement, yes, but also presence, maybe even emotion. And, some sources even suggest this close physical contact could trigger the release of oxytocin.
Ah, the bonding hormone.
Right. That hormone linked to connection and trust.
So the embrace itself holds all these dynamics: trust, vulnerability, leading, following, listening through touch.
Precisely. And while, the historical roots reflect certain traditional gender roles, modern tango, especially with its growing emphasis on mutual listening and shared creativity, offers this amazing space to explore and even renegotiate those dynamics.
Okay, so the embrace is central. What about improvisation? I hear that's huge in tango. It's not just memorized routines.
Oh, absolutely not. Improvisation is social tango. It's the living heart of it. A spontaneous conversation happening right there in the moment between the two partners.
Like jazz, but with bodies.
That's a great analogy. One source literally says every tango will be different because it comes from that deep listening, that constant silent back and forth. It's created on the spot.
So the leader suggests moves, but it's not like ordering someone around.
Exactly. It's framed as an invitation, a proposal.
Yeah.
And the follower isn't passive at all. They're actively interpreting that invitation, adding their own musicality, their own expression. It's a true partnership.
Sounds like it requires intense focus.
Totally. Constant attention, constant reaction. It's described as a negotiation, balancing the leader's intention with what the music is suggesting. Both people have to be incredibly tuned in to subtle shifts in weight, in pressure. It's very, very present.
Wow, that sounds like serious training for emotional intelligence, this intersubjective tuning that some sources mention.
That's a perfect way to put it. You have to be so sensitive, so responsive to nonverbal cues. It's about, suggesting without dictating and following with real understanding and agency.
It really celebrates spontaneity then, doesn't it? Adaptability, being right there in the moment.
Exactly. In a world that often prioritizes planning and control, tango's improvisation is all about embracing the unexpected, responding authentically. It teaches you this incredible way of communicating nonverbally, which feels so human and maybe quite different from a lot of our digital back and forth.
And you can't talk about tango without mentioning the music and the place where it happens, the Milonga. They seem inseparable from the experience.
They absolutely are. The music isn't just background noise. One source calls it the third partner.
The third partner.
It actively interacts with the dancers. It inspires movement, shapes the emotion. The melodies, the rhythms they provide, this whole landscape for the dancers to explore together. And the music itself has evolved so much over time, too.
And the Milonga itself, that's the social event, right? With its own rules and everything.
Precisely. It's the traditional gathering place, almost like a ritual space. It has its own specific customs, its own etiquette. It's definitely not just a free-for-all dance party.
Why the structure?
Well, these customs, which might seem a bit formal at first, are actually really smart social tools. They're designed to create a smooth, respectful, enjoyable experience for everyone. Take how you ask someone to dance.
Okay.
Traditionally, it's done with the eyes and the mirada. You make eye contact across the room. If they meet your gaze and nod the cabeceo, the invitation is accepted.
Ah, so no awkward walk across the floor just to be potentially turned down.
Exactly. It's discreet, respectful, avoids public rejection. It's a little dance before the dance even begins.
Clever. And the way people move on the floor, the ronda.
Right, the line of dance. It flows counterclockwise. It ensures people don't bump into each other too much. And it requires you to be aware not just of your partner, but of the whole community moving around you. Collective awareness.
And what about the tandas and cortinas? I read about those.
Yes. So a tanda is a set of songs, usually 3 or 4, by the same orchestra or in a very similar style. You typically dance the whole tanda with one partner.
Okay.
Then, between tandas, there's a short musical break, usually non-tango music, called the cortina. That's the signal that the tanda is over. It gives you a chance to thank your partner or leave the floor, maybe chat, get a drink, and then find a new partner for the next tanda.
So it provides structure for connection. You connect deeply for a few songs, then you have a natural break to circulate.
Exactly. It creates this rhythm for the whole social experience. It allows for both depth with one partner and the chance to meet and dance with others throughout the evening.
So the Milonga isn't just a venue, it's like a crucial part of the connection building process, a community hub.
Absolutely. It's a structured but fluid social world dedicated to this shared passion. It fosters authentic connection in a way that feels quite different from, say, scrolling through a social media feed or yelling over loud music in a bar.
And weaving through all of this, the embrace, the improv, the Milonga is this fundamental reliance on nonverbal communication. It really is a body language, isn't it?
Totally. One source calls it exactly that, a body language. It's all about feeling the other person. In a time where we rely so much on words, which can sometimes be, misleading or incomplete.
Tango brings back the body's wisdom.
You could say that. It reclaims the power of that nonverbal exchange.
Yes.
It's communication on a different level.
And the embrace is key to that, facilitating the silent talk through tiny movements, weight shifts.
The leader suggests, through gentle pressure or intention, the follower interprets and responds through their movement. It's incredibly subtle.
You really have to develop this sensitivity, don't you, to feel what the partner is doing, as one source put it. It's not just seeing, it's sensing.
Exactly. It requires this deep, active listening with the body. And that naturally fosters empathy, doesn't it? You have to be so attuned.
It sounds like a relationship skills workshop disguised as a dance.
Huh. In a way it is. It teaches communication on this instinctive level, a kind of understanding that maybe our modern focus on the verbal and the digital has let atrophy a bit.
Okay, so when you put all these pieces together, tango starts to look like this really potent counterforce to the isolation and disconnection we talked about earlier, like an antidote.
It really does. And one of the strongest ways it acts as an antidote is by nurturing authenticity, real emotional expression.
That's so.
Well, on the dance floor, you're expressing yourself through your body. There's no screen to hide behind, no perfectly crafted profile. It's just you, your partner, the music.
And one source mentioned the importance of the human factor. Things like self-acceptance, being brave enough to just be yourself, flaws and all. Plus those relational skills like really listening, even forgiveness if things go wrong. That feels rare sometimes.
It does. And the embrace, again, becomes this safe container, a space of mutual acceptance where being vulnerable isn't a liability. It's actually the gateway to deeper connection, to emotional fulfillment. It's a very real, unfiltered exchange.
So it makes sense then that some sources suggest it can be a real help against loneliness, maybe even support for people dealing with depression, just by providing that direct human contact.
Exactly. In a culture that sometimes encourages us to be emotionally guarded or maybe perform emotions online, tango offers this embodied way to genuinely feel and express and to share that vulnerability safely.
Another huge aspect seems to be presence, mindfulness, which feels like gold dust in our distracted world.
Oh, absolutely. Tango demands it. You have to be focused on the present moment. The music, your partner's tiniest signals, your own balance, how you're moving. It's a total discipline of attention.
No checking your phone mid-dance.
Definitely not. And this intense focus can feel almost meditative.
Mm.
It can be incredibly relaxing, paradoxically, and really heighten your self-awareness. It just pulls you right into the here and now.
Someone even coined the term tango zen.
Yes, captures it perfectly. It's like mindfulness in motion, a way to find mental presence and stress relief, not by sitting still, but through movement and connection.
And what about active abandonment? That sounds intriguing.
That's about letting go of trying to control everything, letting go of pre-planned steps, and just surrendering to what emerges in the moment, in the connection with your partner and the music. That's where you can really find that flow state.
Flow, being completely absorbed.
Exactly. It's like a moving meditation. The mental chatter fades. The body takes over with this heightened awareness. The benefits for well-being are potentially huge, a real counterbalance to the frantic pace we often live at.
And we can't forget the community aspect. Tango isn't something you typically do alone in your living room.
Not social tango, no. It finds its real home in the Milonga. That community space is vital, especially now when social isolation is such a big concern, made worse perhaps by how much we live online. Milongas are real-world social hubs.
And they sound quite welcoming, not super cliquey or intimidating.
Generally, yes. Sources often describe them as inclusive places, open to all sorts of people, different ages, backgrounds, dance levels. The main goal is connection, enjoying the dance, the music, not necessarily being technically perfect.
And it crosses language barriers too, right? Like its origins.
Absolutely. The shared language is the dance, the music. It's a powerful connector, just like it was for those immigrant communities back in the day.
So in our often anonymous cities, the Milonga becomes this place where you can actually feel like you belong. Forge real bonds.
That's the idea. A place for deep bonds and relationships of complicity, as one source put it. Grounded in this intense shared experience, it becomes a genuine support network for many people, pushing back against that social fragmentation.
And then there's the whole idea of embodied experience, bringing the body back into focus.
Right. Tango makes you rediscover your body, not just as transport, but as a source of knowing, feeling, communicating. It sharpens your proprioception, that sense of where you are in space, your balance, posture, coordination. It's a very direct reconnection.
Some sources even talked about it philosophically, like an embodied way of being in the world, integrating mind, body, emotion.
Yes, it's seen as this holistic experience, not just mental, not just physical, and some even connected to things like Jung's idea of individuation, that journey to self-awareness through the learning process, or even potential neurophysiological coherence between partners when they're really synced up.
That sounds amazing. But it's not always easy, is it? Confronting yourself through your body.
No, definitely not. Sources mentioned it can bring up psychological stuff, ingrained patterns, shadows.
But working through that, that's where the transformation happens.
Often, yes. That's how you might reach those flow states. Maybe even that sense of a bigger connection, a unified field consciousness that some practitioners describe. It's growth through movement.
And science is starting to catch up too, right? Looking at what's happening in the brain and body.
Yeah, it's fascinating. The idea of embodied cognition suggests that thinking and feeling aren't just happening in the brain, but through the body during tango. The body is part of the process.
And that dyadic synchrony, where partners' heart rates, breathing, even brain waves start to align.
Incredible, isn't it? It's like their systems are literally tuning into each other. Research also shows decreased activity in the brain's default mode network, the part active during mind wandering and more activity in areas for intuitive movement, emotion, empathy.
Plus the oxytocin boost from the embrace we mentioned earlier.
Right. So you put it all together, the structured touch, the evocative music, the improvisation, the community, and it seems to create this almost perfect neurobiological cocktail for connection and well-being.
It really offers a striking contrast to a lot of our screen-based interactions, highlighting its potential as this powerful corrective force.
Definitely.
But, okay, we also need to look at this critically, right? Especially as tango becomes more global, there are complexities, like this idea of tango as intimate resistance. What's that about?
That comes from Caroline Gritzner's work. She talks about tango's contradictory power of resistance to cultural commodification. Basically, like, how does this deeply personal, improvised art form survive becoming a global product?
So the improvisation, the unique connection in the embrace, that stuff can't easily be packaged and sold.
That's the argument. The tango moment itself, that specific, unrepeatable interaction, is inherently unproductive, inexplicable, and non-marketable. It's ephemeral. It resists being turned into just another commodity.
But there's a tension, isn't there? Because tango has spread globally through workshops, shows, tourism. There's a market.
Exactly. And that raises concerns about spectacularization, focusing too much on the showy aspect, potentially losing the intimacy of the traditional milonga. How do you keep the depth when it's part of the global marketplace?
So the challenge is preserving authenticity and access, making sure it doesn't become homogenized or exclusive.
Precisely. Thinking about who gets to learn, the quality of teaching, respecting its diverse roots, resisting that pressure to make it all uniform for easy consumption.
And related to that, there are issues of power dynamics, right? Authenticity itself and even neocolonialism.
Yes, very important points. Who gets to define authentic tango? Some sources suggest authenticity can be a kind of collective illusion or something that's constantly negotiated socially. Even the UNESCO listing involved defining and categorizing something very fluid.
And factors like gender, class, ethnicity, even the history between, say, Europe and North America and South America, they all play a role in how tango is experienced globally.
Absolutely. Kathy Davis's work, building on Marta Sevillano, really explores this. And Melissa Fitch talks about the neo-colonial gaze, how tourists or foreign dancers might romanticize or commodify the culture in Argentina. Global media portrayals also shape expectations back in Argentina itself.
And power dynamics within the dance, gender roles.
Definitely. David Kaminsky's concept of choreohexis shows how power dynamics are embedded in the movement itself. But there's also ongoing debate and change, like the rise of queer tango and other forms challenging traditional roles.
And these dynamics can involve class and race, too.
Yes. Plus, there's the whole ethics of contact, especially now thinking about consent and boundaries. It's crucial to keep asking, who defines authenticity and who benefits?
It adds layers of complexity, for sure.
It does. It requires a nuanced view.
Okay, so despite those critical points, the potential for positive transformation seems huge. The impact on well-being, psychological, emotional, relational.
Overwhelmingly positive, according to many sources. Significant reductions in stress, anxiety, depression symptoms are consistently reported.
And benefits for couples' communication, self-esteem, body awareness, just overall quality of life.
All mentioned frequently. Tango is often described as this deep journey within, a way to discover yourself, break old patterns, explore sensuality, embrace vulnerability, move towards feeling more whole.
It's not a quick fix, more like experiential learning through joy and connection.
Exactly. And we keep coming back to its power against loneliness, fostering that social integration.
So ultimately, it cultivates deeper awareness of yourself and others.
That seems to be the consensus. It invites you back into your inner world, back to genuine human connection, away from the constant external noise, a true dance of life, as one source called it.
So wrapping this up, the core value seems to lie in that unique mix. The embrace, the improvisation, the connection, the presence, the community. It's like a microcosm of society, a reflection on how we relate.
And the benefits, psychological, emotional, social, are pretty well documented. It clearly fosters well-being and relational awareness in a powerful way.
It really feels like tango, or maybe just the principles behind it, authentic contact, embodied presence are going to be increasingly important in our digital world.
Yeah.
And maybe there's a responsibility there for the community to protect its integrity, keep it accessible.
That need for real connection, it's not going away. It's fundamental.
So maybe the final thought, the invitation for you listening, is to think about consciously stepping away from the screens, just sometimes, to, as one source beautifully put it, set aside displays to discover the magic hidden within an embrace. Maybe exploring tango, this dance of life, could be one way towards finding more presence, more passion, and, well, more connection in a world that seems to need it more than ever.